Welcome to Chapter 3 on Basic Options. There's a lot in this chapter, so we're going back to the insurance analogy from Chapter 1 to better understand how options are priced. Remember, buying options is similar to buying insurance, and selling options is like being Jay from State Farm. As we've said before, there are three factors that will cause an options price to move around each day. Once you understand how these three factors affect option prices, we'll be ready to dive into different strategies that we can use to take advantage of those price movements and profit from them. That's where the fun starts, but we have to lay the groundwork first and focus on understanding these three factors. The three factors that cause options price to move are the following. 1. The price action of the underlying stock. 2. The time to expiration. 3. The volatility of the underlying stock. First, let's talk about how the underlying stock's price will affect the price of its options. Let's think back to the basic definition of a put option. Buying a put option gives you the right to sell stock at an agreed-upon price on or before a specific date, and obviously the agreed-upon price is determined by the strike price. You can see Apple stock and its options that expire in 55 days. Let's say you own 100 shares of Apple stock at $330 per share. You could buy the 330 strike put, and that would be like buying full coverage insurance. If for some crazy reason Apple crashes, then your put would allow you to sell your shares of stock at $330 per share right where you bought it. Even if Apple's market price falls below $330, looking at the option pricing, you can see that it would cost around $12.70 for the 330 strike put. And remember, we multiply that by 100. So the cost of one contract of this 330 strike put would be about $1,270. Now, if you were to buy the 320 strike put instead, you can see that it would cost you less money. It would cost around $885 for one contract. The reason it's cheaper is because it would only insure $320 per share worth of your investment rather than the full amount of $330 per share. Let's look at an entirely different example. Let's say you own the 120 strike call on stock ABC. You don't own any stock, you just own the call, and this option would give you the right to buy shares of ABC stock at 120. What if the current stock price is at 125 per share? Well, if the current stock price is at 125 and you own an option that gives you the right to buy stock at 120, then that option is going to be worth at least $5 of intrinsic value. This is because if you exercise the option, you would have an immediate $5 per share profit. In this scenario, we would refer to this option as being in the money. Because it has value, it allows us to purchase the stock at a discount to the current price. So again, this option is referred to as being in the money, or ITM. Here's another scenario. Let's say you own the 120 strike call, but this time the stock is lower than that. It's at 115. If you own an option that gives you the right to buy stock at 120, but the current stock price is below that at 115. Assuming there's no time left until expiration, how much is this option going to be worth in this case? It's going to be worthless. No rational trader would exercise the right to buy stock at 120 when the stock is at $115. In this scenario, we would refer to this option as being out of the money, or OTM. Because the call option strike price is above the current stock price and therefore does not allow us to purchase the stock at a discount. Again, this is referred to as out of the money, or OTM. Now, I know this seems like a lot to keep up with and a lot of information to digest, but we're going to recap all of this again at the end of the chapter for you to take notes. If we look at an option chain, you can see that the in-the-money and out-of-the-money options are highlighted. The in-the-money calls have a shaded background, and the out-of-the-money calls have an empty or black background. So one more time, in-the-money calls are calls with a strike price that is less than the current stock price. The out-of-the-money calls are calls with a strike price that is greater than the current stock price. For puts, it's the exact opposite. This is where it will start to come together. You'll notice that the further in the money an option is, the more expensive it is. Because if an option allows you to purchase the stock at a bigger discount, it's going to be more valuable than an option that only allows you to purchase the stock at a small discount. Now here's the thing. Stock prices are always moving. So if you own a call and the stock price goes up, then that call option will gain value, due to the option getting deeper in the money and becoming more valuable. Let me repeat that because it's one of the most important concepts in options trading. If a stock's price rises, then that stock's call options will increase in value. And if you own a put option and the stock price falls, then that put option will increase in value. It will simply be worth the difference between the stock price and the option's strike price. Put simply, the option's value will be determined by how far in the money it is. This is intrinsic value. An option will simply be worth its intrinsic value at the expiration date. To demonstrate, let's look at the options that are about to expire in AT&T. So these options basically have no time left on them. The stock is currently trading at $23.21, and if we look at the 22 strike call, we can see that it's worth $1.40. The reason is because the 22 strike call would allow you to purchase the stock at a discount of around $1.26. And if we look a little further in the money, you can see the 21 strike call is worth around $2.51. The 21 strike call would allow you to purchase stock at a discount of around $2.31 per share. And remember, if an option is out of the money, then it will be worthless at expiration. Because no rational trader wants to buy stock at a price higher than its current market value. Similarly, out-of-the-money puts will also be worthless because nobody wants to sell at a cheaper price than what it's worth. You can see that on these options here, all the out-of-the-money options are worthless. So just to recap, at the expiration, in the money options will be worth the difference between the strike price and the stock price. All out-of-the-money options will be worthless. But let's look at some options that are not yet about to expire. You can see on this chain for AT&T with 21 days left that even the out-of-the-money options still have value. So if all out-of-the-money options will be worthless at the expiration date, then why do they have value now? This leads us into our next point, which is time to expiration. Moving further into number 2 of our 3 factors that affect option prices, time to expiration or days to expiration, aka DTE. Let's talk about how time will affect an options price. We've talked about how options are basically insurance, and obviously you have to pay money for this insurance. Now the thing about insurance is you don't pay for car insurance once and keep it forever. You have to pay month after month or annual premiums to keep your insurance. So the longer you have it, the more money you will have to pay. Expiration dates for options work the same. You have to pay monthly for car insurance. If you want to insure your car for 6 months, it might cost you $700. However, if you want to insure it for 12 months, it might cost you $1,400. In the exact same way, an option with 60 days to expiration is going to have a higher price than the same option with only 30 days to expiration. In the last section, you'll learn more about in the money and out of the money. You'll learn that out of the money options are options that have a strike price that does not allow you to purchase or sell the underlying stock at a better price than the current market price. Therefore, out of the money options are worthless. Now this is only true if there is no time left on the option. To better explain, right now you're looking at a chain for AT&T. Options that have 0 days left. They expire this evening after the market closes, and you can see that the out-of-the-money options are at 0. Next, let's look at the options for SPX that still have time left until they expire. We're going to look at the options with 26 days to expiration. You can see that the out-of-the-money options with 26 days to expiration have value, but if they won't have value at the expiration, then why do they have value now? The answer is because stock prices move, and if there is still time left until expiration, then there is still a chance that the out-of-the-money option could become in the money. Think of it this way. After purchasing car insurance, will it be worth the price paid? Well, we can't know, because we do not know if we'll get into a crash in the future. It could end up being worthless, or you could get into a crash and you'd be happy that you had the insurance. I realize that car insurance is required for all drivers, even if you know it's overpriced, but the analogy still stands. Now you see the prices of these options with 26 days to expiration. You can see that the further out of the money option is cheaper, and it is because the probability of it being of any value is less than an option with a strike price that is closer to the current stock price. SPX is more likely to reach 74.50 over the next 26 days than 75.50, because it would have to make a larger move to get to 74.70, whereas it's a smaller move to get to 74.20. So the 74.70 strike call option will not cost as much money because it's less likely that it will be of any value at expiration. Let's take a look at what these option prices will look like with 0 days to expiration. There is 3 hours left before market close, and price is currently $7,429.58. All of these out-of-the-money options are just about worthless, and the in-the-money options are worth the difference between the stock price and the strike price. This is because there is little time left. The extra is extrinsic value. Extrinsic value refers to the amount that is greater than the intrinsic value portion. Intrinsic value refers to the in-the-money portion of that option's price. Okay, so that may have sounded a little confusing, so let's look at a quick example. Remember, we mentioned that these options that expire today don't really have any extrinsic value. So let's again go back to the options with 26 days left. We'll use AT&T for this example. The ticker is T. Check out the 22 strike call option with 26 days left before expiration. The price of this option is $2.35 and the current stock price is $24.11. So this 22 strike call option is $2.11 in the money. Its intrinsic value is $2.11 and the extrinsic value is just whatever is left over. In this case, the extrinsic value is 24 cents. Remember, at the expiration date, there will be no extrinsic value left on the options. The value of this option at expiration will be whatever its intrinsic value is. So in practice, what does this actually mean for us? Well, let's say we bought this call right now at $2.35. We know that if AT&T stock doesn't move and just trades sideways for the next 26 days, then this option is gradually going to go from $2.35 down to $2.11, and we learned in the last chapter that option prices have a multiplier of 100. So in this case, we paid $235 and sold it for $211. So our net loss would be $24, and the stock didn't even move for us to have made money on this call option. AT&T would have had to move high enough for the intrinsic value to exceed the premium we paid for the option. For example, we paid $2.35 for the 22 strike call. For us to break even on this trade by expiration, the stock would have to be at 22 strike plus $2.35, which comes out to be $24.35, and AT&T is currently at $24.11. So it would have to move up to $24.35 for us to just break even. Another way to think of intrinsic and extrinsic value is to think of an option's price like a pie. Part of the pie is intrinsic value, and whatever is left over is extrinsic value. As expiration approaches, that extrinsic portion gradually disappears like a pie eaten over time. As time to expiration gets closer and closer, the pie is disappearing faster and being gobbled up. So not only will the stock have to move in your favor, it will have to move in your favor a significant amount for you to break even, much less make profit. That's why we kept saying to wait and watch before you just start buying calls on every stock you think is going to go up and puts on every stock you think is going to go down. Because even though it costs much less than trading the shares of stock, you're going to have time decay against you. Time decay, also known as theta, is one of the Greeks we will go over later. Options are constantly decaying as time passes. This is exactly why we don't only trade options in this way. We rarely buy options as a way to guess direction of the underlying stock. We actually trade them several ways, but often in a way that allows us to take advantage of this time decay. and you're going to learn these strategies later on in this free course. Now, one thing I want to mention to avoid confusion is that an option's extrinsic or time value is gradually decaying. So if you buy this option today and AT&T moves up to 24.50 cents tomorrow, then you're going to have a decent profit because there will still be time value left on this option. We'll touch more on determining break-even prices a little later. Just remember, you don't have to hold an option all the way to its expiration date. We are actually able to open and close the trade anytime before the expiration date. Now let's move on to the recap section to go over what you've learned in this section. Expiration dates. Options have expiration dates for the same reason you have to pay monthly for car insurance. You don't have to hold an option all the way to expiration. If you own an option, then you can sell it at any time before expiration at the current market price of that option. More time equals more money. If you buy an option with 60 days to expiration, it's going to cost you more than if you buy an option with only 30 days to expiration. You also learned about intrinsic and extrinsic value. Intrinsic value simply refers to the amount in the money. Extrinsic value is just the amount that exceeds the intrinsic portion. Extrinsic value is also known as time value. Remember, if an option has no time left or is about to expire, then it's going to have no time value left on it. It will simply be worth whatever its intrinsic value is. Lastly, option prices are always decaying due to the passage of time. So if you are buying options, you will be fighting this decay, which is why we recommend you to finish this entire course before making your first option trade. Soon, you will learn other strategies to allow you to put yourself in a position to profit from this time decay. It's extremely powerful once you learn how to do this, along with other powerful knowledge that will allow you to start learning other more complex strategies. There are many ways to profit from options besides simply buying them and hoping price moves in your favor. Now we still need to go over the third and last factor that affects option prices, and that is volatility. Volatility will be gone over next in Chapter 4. So don't forget to check that out next if you're ready to progress further into the course. Then we will start getting into trading strategies for options and how to make money in the market. These free videos will help you learn those strategies, and they are completely free. Be sure to watch the next videos in this series. We're getting into the good stuff. Okay, on to the next chapter. Thanks for watching, and if you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, and maybe even share with others. It would greatly be appreciated. Thanks again.